Good morning. Our hand today is going to be ace-4 diamonds. So we have an early position limper, isoraise with just a standard raise. I've showed that before, and then folds back to the limper and he calls. Now, limper's range is going to be a little bit difficult to assess. I gave him something like this, which isn't typical. He's playing 63-0, 43 hands, hasn't raised the pre-flop, hasn't raised the first in. He's limped, basically limped in quite a few times. This is early position, so this is kind of like one of the first times that he could do it. His called pre-flop 2-bets 83%. So I think he's pretty wide. Now, if I look at hands, and I've already taken notes, but limp and call to raise 9-9, 7-7, king 7 off, and that's initially had a range built for him, and then I saw the king 7 off and said, okay, well, if he's going to play king 7 off, it's possible that he is playing like all aces, all kings, and then these Broadway cards, and he probably doesn't necessarily realize the value of some of these hands. So I'm going to assume that he would have folded some of these weaker hands, but with ace and king, he's just going to call. I did take out kings plus ace king. I think it's an unusual person who doesn't raise that, but it's possible that, yeah, he is just like limping everything just to see a lot of flops. So I'm going to give him this really big range here. Flop comes out king 10-10. Villain checks. He has donked 17% of the time. I think if he had king with a low kicker, he probably would have donked here. Not sure if he would have donked jacks or queens or not, but I fired out half pot bet because the king does hit my range. He calls. Queen of diamonds comes out. I was also going to say, with the c-bet, I was also planning to continue if I had a queen or a jack or a diamond or an ace. So, hands that kind of improve my equity. Of course, the ace, I think, would be one of the worst cards to come out because I think jack, queen call. But I probably would have continued betting just because if he's playing how loose he's playing, it's entirely possible that he could, he could have anything really connect with any piece, especially if he had a king, he's going to be calling. So I bet half pot, he calls. River's the ace, gives me top pair, he checks. Now at this point, I think I have a showdown value hand. Jack's going to definitely call. I don't want to bet and get raised and have to fold. I think a 10 might raise and fold, so I just, I believe I checked behind here, and then we saw a showdown. So I'm curious to see how this fits with some of the GTO strategy. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at it. So with GTO, got the ranges built. Villain should be betting 23% of the time. He does have some of these small donks. There's small percentage leading out here just because he's got kings in his range. He's got some aces in his range. So backdoor flush draw potential. And really, when you think about it, 10s definitely fits the caller's range more than my range. When we see his overall range here, you can see he has a lot of he's got these 10s in his range, a lot of these 10s in his range, so definitely could have that. But he doesn't, he checks, so we'll assume he's playing GTO. I don't think he is playing GTO, but we'll assume he does that here, so he checks. It's on me. We bet about 37% of the time, and ace 4 is, or can be, a bet. Actually, it's about 50-50. 56 check, 44% bet. We could check behind here. We could bet here. I chose to bet. And villain called, and where you can see he's calling with a lot of these kings. So queen of diamonds comes out, and that definitely helps me. Villain checks, which should be the appropriate play. Queen does help the range, so you can see that, yeah, with ace-4 diamonds, I am supposed to be continuing bet here, firing that second barrel, and that is against the GTO player. GTO players calling here, kings. He's calling with jacks. Gonna raise with queens. That's a little surprising, but I guess that helps. Kind of gets balanced by some of these other weaker cards here. You know, some of the diamond draws. So he does call, and then ace of clubs comes out. He checks, which is fine. And now we're betting. You know, about 59% of the time we're betting our tens. We're betting our ace jack. So our straights, we're betting our full houses. We're betting some of these small pocket pairs as bluffs, probably, I'm sure, because we really can't win if we just check. But our aces, ace and small kickers, are checking behind. So I do think I played this okay. Played it according to GTO. If this was a GTO player, but my guess is it's not a GTO player, so I'm curious to see what showdown is. Now, I think I took a I took a note. So I think this is pocket nines. So he called the pocket nines all the way. Question is, does he have pocket nines? No, he shouldn't. He should have, you know, done something differently with them. So let's kind of go back and see first, you know, instead of taking the bet, if I took the check line here, what's going to be our play? You know, how do we handle it? So if I check here, villain should be betting 39% of the time, and that's, it increases now. So he should be betting his kings. He should be betting his aces. Actually, before we do that, we bet. He calls it. That's an appropriate call. He checks. We bet. Villain should be folding here, but he doesn't. He calls. So if he calls there, I think even if we bet, he's probably going to be folding those. Or I think GTO says he's going to be folding. I'm not sure if he's going to call that third street. Maybe it's possible, and I don't know if I took note of that. But anyways, let's say we checked. Let's say villain also checks here, checks again. So what do we do with our ace-4 diamonds? It says we should be betting here. Villain's going to be calling with a wider range, and then we get ace of clubs. Villain checks, as he should, and then we check behind. Okay, so that's one line. What if villain bets? We can call with the ace-4 diamonds. If villain bets again on the river, then we're probably going to be folding some of this. I think definitely with his bet, could probably have jacks in his range, and betting again, you know, betting turn and river, really just says, hey, I've got a decent hand. I like my hand, and probably going to have to fold that. Pull the ace-4. If he shows something like 8s or 9s, so be it. We take a note and we realize that he can do it. But more than likely, I think he's going to show us a 10 or a jack if he bets these two streets. So we had the check. What if he bets, as he should? Should we have called? Now, if he leads into us, GTO says to fold, and I think I probably would have folded here. Really, our ace-4, we're going for the ace overcard. We've got some backdoor diamonds, and that's about it. So I think if he's going to lead into us, he's got a king. It's going to be hard for us to rep anything. It's probably going to be hard for us to get him off of any other, you know, king with a weaker kicker. I think it would be much better to raise here. So if he bets, I think it would be much better for us to raise hands that have much better equity. So like ace-4, all we're going is that one overcard and backdoor flush draw. But if we had something like ace-queen or ace-jack, we not only have that ace overcard, but we also have a gut shot that we can draw to. And it would be even better if it was suited here, so that we have a possibility of backing into a flush. Obviously, 10s we would raise. But maybe not all of them. Some of these 10s we could probably just call here and hope that villain leads again, bets again, and we could call. And hopefully it could just kind of take his stack because he was going to be over aggressive with the king or something like that. So what happens if we change it? So he obviously didn't have king 7. Let's fix it and say, okay, player limps, we raise, and he calls. And let's give him a tighter range here. So we're going to rebuild the tree. We'll run the solver and we'll come back when we're done. All right, solver's done. I'm going to say I think this range is a little bit more typical of a player that could limp call. He could limp with a wider range, especially with a player that likes to play a lot of hands. Probably isn't going to be raising with like ace queen ace jack, but still raise kings plus ace king. Maybe even go for a check raise with those types of hands. So we're going to say against a typical opponent, a more regular opponent, this is their range. They should be checking 92% of the time, and it leads us to be betting here about 45% of the time. So same frequency. Again, we can check or bet. I chose to bet here. King, we do have possibility pocket kings here. So we bet villain's going to be calling with, basically Broadway type hands. He does have some check raises there. But he'll call about 52% of the time. We're hoping he folds, but I mean 50% is pretty big. When we're betting half pot, we're giving him 3-1 odds on the call, and if he folds more than 25% of the time, then we could profit. And if he's folding 50%, hey, that's we're gonna profit with that bet. So he checks again, let's say. Do we continue firing? Yep, yeah, with our diamond. We've improved with our flush draw, so we want to bet again. Villain calls. He's calling again. Broadway ranges. King. King comes out, so he calls ace of clubs, and then if he bets into us on that river, I think we're gonna have a hard call. Sometimes we call, sometimes fold. I think if he leads into us, we could, against a low limit player like this, I think we could probably safely fold. I think he's got a 10 or he's got a jack, most likely a jack. He's betting here to try to make sure he gets money in that pot, but he doesn't. He checks, as I think a lot of people will, and then it's on us. Do we bet behind? No, we just check behind. We have showdown value hand here with ace with a low kicker. We do think that villain's going to have these jacks in his range, so when he does call, I think we're going to be hurting. We're going to be way behind when he calls, so it's not really a value bet if the vast majority of the time he calls that we are crushed. So just take the showdown. Happy about that play. What if we took the other route and said we're going to check here? Queen comes out. Now I think if we check, players could better check. I think some players will bet here in the face of weakness. We did improve to the diamond, so we can call. If he bets again, I think we're going to be folding for the same reasons as before. Betting the turn and the river is a sign of strength, and even though we have our ace high hand or a pair of aces, it's not super great. So when we see it, it does look like with like ace 4 diamonds, ace 3, it looks like we're favoring folding. I think these we're calling just to kind of balance, just to ensure that we do have some ace high hands that we're calling with. Because he could be betting with some of these weaker cards like 5, 6, sorry, like 2s, like 3s. Jeez. Yeah, it's just a few. It's just really a small few because we're behind all of the jacks. So if he bets again, yeah, it's probably safe to fold. Hate folding top pair, but given the board, given the run out, I think we probably have to. If he checks behind, though, we're just gonna go ahead and check and take the showdown. We do have some bluffs here, 5, 6. I mean, we're not going to be able to win unless he folds. Chances are. So we play aggressively, try to pick up the pot at that point. What if he checks here? So if the flop went check, check, and he checks again, should we be betting? Yeah, I do think we should be betting here. Kind of a delayed C bet. We're betting with like Jack 9, so gut shots with 9, 7. Gut shots here, 8, 7, 9, 8. These are, we're betting our diamond draws. 5, 6 is just straight up bluff. 2s and 3s, yeah, we got a little value because we've got pair, but I think we want folds there. So if he checks to us on the turn again, we could definitely bet. And if he calls, then if he bets into us, it's almost like we're gonna have to call just to keep him honest. We probably hate doing that, but that's probably the right call. But again, in a low stakes, for him to check call on the turn and then bet into us, I think he's betting because he wants money in the pot. More than likely, he's going to check again, and then we can check behind it to take that showdown. So, all right, hopefully you enjoyed this hand. I think I played it well. He had pocket 9s. Not sure about how my read of his range was, but kind of ran at both, more typical range versus kind of a really weird, odd range. But I think we're playing it in much the same way. So if you enjoyed this, look tomorrow for another hand.